All right, everyone, good morning. We have reached Tuesday, and this is the morning briefing from the Celtic Way, with the only two guys left in Celtic Way Towers.
Yeah,
The other two are away down south, aren't they? So, have you
yeah.
got an update on exactly where they are at the moment?
No, I don't have their live location, but they might be at some sort of service station between Glasgow and Birmingham. They did leave early this morning to make it down for the press conferences today, so they're on the way to Birmingham at the moment.
I was going to say, would you like to be in that car, or would you like not to be in that car? I wonder what they chat about. I'd love to know. I've
Yeah,
never
we
actually
maybe
met
should have got them
Tony.
to do a live stream in the car from Glasgow to Birmingham. That would have been a good laugh for everyone.
Who's
See,
driving?
see. I don't actually know who's driving, but
Okay.
yeah, I need to get more information about this trip to Birmingham.
Because I'm just thinking if Tony's driving, it'll be Ryan will be watching the stream, Ryan. So feel
Mm.
free to dial in and let us know how you're getting on. Not if you're driving, though, of course. Goes without saying. John, how's things?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's a strange weekend, obviously, with the game being cancelled or rescheduled. And then Celtic just immediately getting the transfer work done pretty early in the final week, which is kind of what we wanted. And it
Yeah.
kind of leaves space for them to push on and complete another few deals or another couple of deals at least, hopefully.
Yeah, it's pretty manic at the moment, isn't it? In a weird way, I was kind of all right with the game being off at the weekend because I just felt like I needed a couple of days away from thinking about Celtic. Not in a bad way. It's just been quite the last week's been quite overwhelming in terms of like big stuff happening. Celtic
Yeah.
qualifying for the knockouts of the Champions League for the first time in 13 years, and losing one of our best strikers of the 21st century and re-signing one of my favourite Celtic players ever.
Yeah, it is crazy. And it kind of goes back. Remember, Ange used to say, like, you enjoy every game as if it's these players' last because you never know what might happen the next day. And we went through in the Champions League, and immediately, almost an hour after the full time whistle, the reports coming out of France that Kyogo was off. So you do need to cherish these moments and these matches in the moment, because I don't think I really expected that to be the last time I'd be watching Kyogo in a Celtic shirt, and I don't think
Yeah.
many supporters really did. And then that's what happened, and we're left with sending goodbye statements on Twitter. That's how he says goodbye, and that's the nature of football. That's how it works in this modern age.
Yeah, it's all very sudden. I'm less focused, or I care less about the getting to say goodbye to Kyogo. I know that matters
Yeah,
to a lot of people, and that's
yeah,
absolutely fair enough. I guess it's a big thing. It might be a big thing to you. For me, going out on top is the thing I always
yeah.
look
That's
for.
true. Yeah,
And I mean, you can't argue about Kyogo not going out on top when you look at where we are and the fact that he helped us to the knockouts of the Champions League. Um, Amazing career. We've had a couple of messages today. Now, there's one Kyogo's posted on his Instagram.
hmm
There's also one I'm guessing with similar sentiments that Celtic have posted. It's a bit more lengthy, so I'll just read it out. So this is come from Celtic. It's titled "A Message from Kyogo." Over the past 3.5 years, I have been truly grateful for your wonderful support and cheering. From the moment I joined until my final day, I've been happy every step of the way. Being able to enjoy so many wonderful moments and achievements with all of you made me feel like the happiest player in the world countless times. I believe these invaluable experiences were only possible because I came to Celtic. Even as the time goes on, I'm deeply moved and encouraged by the many warm messages and kind words I continue to receive, and I cannot thank you enough. I move forward, but I will keep all of you in my heart and continue on my journey. Lastly, I am very sorry that I couldn't say goodbye to you all, but I will give my best in my new chapter. I'm confident that my wonderful Celtic teammates, along with the manager and his backroom team, will continue to create new and exciting moments for the rest of the season. Please continue to show your amazing support for Celtic, just as you always have. Hail, hail, Kyogo. Nicely done.
yeah. He's always had a fantastic relationship with the supporters, and there'll be a few, as there always is, grumbling. He's leaving Celtic, and we don't like players leaving Celtic. That is the nature of supporting a football team. But I think the vast majority of supporters will wish him well on his journey and hope that he does well. And and what he does next, which is challenging France. I always fancied him for a move to Spain, but I think we've discussed
Yeah,
before that the money is not really going round the Spanish leagues at the moment, where they would maybe be able to afford a fee on a player that is turning 30. Rennes are in a difficult position at the moment. Kyogo's going into a difficult situation, but he has the quality, and I think he might have more space, more areas to impact games rather than against teams who are sitting in on the low block all the time. So it'll be interesting to see how he does in France, and hopefully he does well, and hopefully he achieves his dream of, playing in the World Cup in 2026. Yeah, good luck to Kyogo. A fabulous player. I don't know about you, Hamish. I think my favourite goal was probably the one in the derby against Rangers, the 2-1 game that Bernardo also scored in. Just the way he swept that goal in from the edge of the box, and it proved to be the winner in that game. I thought that was a fabulous goal that just summed up everything brilliant about Kyogo. So that's my favourite.
Yeah, there was so many. We discussed this yesterday. For me, there was loads. What was the one I mentioned? I mentioned a few. Ferencváros, the Hibs final one, the volley,
final,
not the volley, sorry, the lob over the goalkeeper was for me perhaps the most iconic. But he had so many. The Atletico Madrid one was a brilliant goal as well, and that was just typical Kyogo. So we've got big shoes to fill for Adam Idah or whoever else we sign.
I mean, we're kind of hinting at it in the YouTube title. I think Celtic need to sign a striker. I don't think we can go forward
permanently,
with
or we can alone.
It depends. If there's a long-term target that they're waiting for the summer, then like a temporary signing isn't the worst thing in the world. But I do think Celtic need a new competitive striker in that slot. Now, people might say Maeda and Idah can compete for that, and that's fair enough. But I want Maeda and Jota to be competing for that left wing spot. And the reality of Jota's return is, and I'm very excited about Jota returning, and I don't think it'll take him too long to get back up to speed. But the reality is he's not had an amazing amount of football in the last 18 months. It's something like 25, 26 games in total. So it's going to take him a few weeks to get up to speed. We're going to need Maeda in that slot. And I don't think Celtic can really mess about here. I think we need to go and find a striker of some repute, of some quality, to come in and try and help us out in the second half of the season if necessary, but ideally on a permanent basis.
So clearly at Celtic, you're probably not going to sign we say we're not going to sign the finished article. Kyogo was pretty finished when he came in.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of doubting myself a little bit there. Now, I'm not saying you look at Japan. I mean, clearly, I think if you're signing Kyogo not from Japan, if you're signing Kyogo from another European league, you'd be paying more than $4.5 million. I think, given what he'd done and the quality he had. But you're looking for someone who can come in and make an instant impact. You're not looking for. You're looking for a Moussa Dembele basically here, someone who can come in right away and can score those goals that Kyogo was scoring.
Someone who at least has the quality to have that impact in the Scottish Premiership, at least. I think when Kyogo, when he arrived, he took time to warm up to the European occasion, didn't he? And I think so. He had the quality to immediately be, electric at Scottish Premiership level, and that's what we're needing: someone who can fill those boots immediately and then grow into the European task that is ahead of Celtic. That would probably be the ideal. Whether that is possible in this final week, I don't know, but that's certainly what Celtic need to be working on alongside, pushing for this early return of Kieran Tierney.
Yeah, I mean, Wazaboy talking about Matthias Kvistgaarden, and listen, he's the one that everyone's speaking about, and it's one of these I'd kind of heard the name, and I'll be totally honest, I hadn't bothered to really focus too much on Kvistgaarden while Kyogo and Idah had been at the club, because Brendan Rodgers made it very clear that you wouldn't be signing a player like Kvistgaarden when you already had Kyogo and Idah there. It doesn't work with 3 first-choice strikers. Obviously, now the fact that Kyogo's moved on, it opens the door for someone like Kvistgaarden, who appears like he's going to cost a lot of money, from 10 million to, I think I've seen 13.5 million. I was reading a bit on the kind of Brøndby comment section yesterday, and their fans don't want their club to sell him this month. They want to keep hold of him until the end of the season. But they seem to rate him really highly. And I mean, his goal scoring record this season is pretty impressive. And I think he's a similar kind of fit to Kyogo. That would be a big thing for me. I'd want a similar player to Kyogo. I think Kyogo and Idah are pretty different. And and I would want to keep that variation in our play and have different options. I think, while Kyogo was at the club, we always had an alternative to him, whether it was Yakimakis or O or Ida, and I'd want to keep that. I wouldn't want, another kind of tall player who was good in the air as, being the alternative to Ida. So, yeah, I'd ideally like Celtic to sort it this month, but our club's going to want to lose their star striker in midway through the season in January. Like I genuinely do have a bit of sympathy for Celtic, and that it might be difficult.
At the same time, Celtic have made the decision to sell their star striker at this point. So, ideally for me, you would only really sell Kyogo if you had someone lined up. I don't think scrambling around in this last week is really the gateway to go. We're going to find out, more about Adam Ida's current state against Aston Villa, I would suggest, because I'm pretty sure he'll be starting. He'll be starting that game. Obviously, Jota can't play, so Maeda will probably be on the left in that one, and Ida through the middle. Sorry, not Maeda, because Maeda can't play either because he's suspended. So the attacking options aren't looking amazing.
Yang will probably play, won't he?
Yeah. But I mean, Ida's got an opportunity now, doesn't he? He's got an opportunity. He'll probably have a few games at least, even if we do sign someone to kind of stake his claim for that central attacking slot. So hopefully he can step up. But that's what everyone's wanting from Ida.
And the feeling might be that if you give Ida a bit more responsibility, it could turn out to be really good. Like I still have pretty high hopes for Ida. I don't think he's been bad so far. I know a lot of people think he's been a total waste of money, and I don't understand that at all. I think he's been decent enough so far. I think he's got a lot he can improve, but I think he's he's scored some goals, some big goals. He's been involved, but it's a big night for him against Villa. It's an opportunity for him and the rest of the team. Gordon talking about Evan Ferguson, discuss him. What's the chat with him? Is he likely to stay in England?
It seems like there's maybe too many teams going in for him, and that if it's not the Premier League, it might be one of the bigger teams in France. I think the competition's probably too fierce. Unless he really fancies a move to Celtic, I think he's got some sort of affinity for the club. But is it enough to tempt him up the road for 6 months? I don't know. I that seems a little bit far-fetched to me, just given that there'll be a lot of clubs, especially I think there'll be Premier League clubs in for him that fancy him to do a job for them in the second half of the season. I think Brighton are obviously keen for the loan to happen, or at least willing to talk about it. But whether Celtic can be in that mix, I don't know.
Not sure how much of a Celtic fan Evan Ferguson is. I don't know if people have seen this, but Open Goal, who you'll all know, I think spoke to him at a thing down in London a few months ago, and I think they asked him, they kind of forced it upon him to say Celtic's his team, and then they asked him who's your favourite player, and he took ages. He genuinely, I think, couldn't think of a Celtic player, and then he said Henrik Larsson. So I'm not sure how much of a real affinity. I guess being Irish, there's always a real link to Celtic, unless we've got a few players he'll know, clearly Liam Scales and Adam Ida at the club, so potentially. But I wonder if you were going to end up looking at, a name we'll all know from down south on loan, someone who's just not featuring for a big team, like a kind of out of favour forward at Newcastle or Arsenal or something like that. I don't know if there is a player out there, but we've got the real links to English football now, don't we? With Tisdale and David Pleat there, and obviously Brendan Rodgers. I saw someone mentioning Iheanacho, who I think's out in Spain possibly, or Italy, not doing particularly well. So he could possibly be a guy Brendan Rodgers worked at in the past. It's going to be exciting regardless. Tierney, any update there?
I think the chat is... I think it's well acknowledged that the Tierney contract situation is pretty much done in some capacity. Do you know what I mean? That is all the reporting out there. I think the question is whether he'll come back in January or wait till... I think Celtic want him to come back in January, because I think Celtic want him in for the knockout round. And I'd imagine Tierney would want back for the knockout round too, but the fact is there's like wages and money hanging on Tierney. He would earn a lot of money between now and the summer. So there is that aspect to it as well. So it's quite complicated. It's not as easy as just like signing Tierney and getting him up the road quickly. I think there's aspects about Arsenal's squad balance as well. So there's like 3 or 4 moving factors in that all need to align for Celtic to get him in this last week. But I think it's possible because I think obviously the willingness is there for Tierney to come back. There's willingness is there for Celtic to want him back. So it's just about working out all those little details. And I would love to see him back early. I think it would be good for him to have this initial 6 months and then build into next season. And obviously be fantastic for him to be involved in some capacity in those knockout games, which are the biggest games at Celtic in over a decade. So nobody's really wanting to miss out on that. So hopefully the will is there for all parties to get that one done. I mean, for me, I'm looking at it these last few days. I'm really hoping Celtic sign a striker, and I'm really hoping that Tierney gets up the road. Those are the 2 things I want. Anything else that it comes down to after that, any other tweaks in the squad would be a bonus. We'll maybe get Greg Taylor on a new contract, stuff like that. But I don't think Celtic will be doing massive amounts of business, but those 2 are certainly priorities for me.
I mean, if we get those 2, I think the squad, and we actually got a comment on this a minute ago, Sean, saying if we get a good striker in and Tierney, do you think we'll have a similar level of squad that we did during the run to Seville? And I mean, that squad obviously did a lot more than this team have done so far. But in terms of like looking at the squad, I do think it is the strongest squad since then, arguably already. But if you sign Kieran Tierney at left back and you sign a striker who is, a top level striker, like you struggle to see the weakness in that team at all. Like genuinely, like it's goalkeeper's brilliant. Johnston, Tierney's your fullbacks. Obviously, Tierney's fitness might be an issue. Carter Vickers, trusty. The midfield we know is strong. Jota on one wing potentially. Kuhn on the other. You've got Maida and Forrest in the background, and then a top striker with Ida there as well. Like it's properly good.
It's funny because I think myself and you for about a year we've been going, we like Kuhn, but we want someone on the other side who's more like Jota on the left side, and Celtic just go out and sign Jota. So I mean that is it's kind of dream stuff for Jota to return so quickly for me. Like it is, and hopefully he just gets back to the physical shape and gets really aligned with what this Brendan Rodgers team. It has always been interesting as well because Rodgers, even when Jota had left, Rodgers has consistently said in the media that Jota was one of the players that he would have loved to work with. And he kind of, when things weren't going so great, in those first few months, he mentioned Jota a couple of times as an example of a player who's walked out the door that he's struggled to replace. So I think Rodgers is will really relish kind of rejuvenating Jota's career. The fact that Jota signed on till 2030 is fantastic as well. Like he could be here for a long term. I mean, getting Jota in his prime, if Jota gets back to what he was showing and we have him in his prime, I mean, that's just so exciting. I think that's so exciting, and I think Celtic have done a fabulous job getting him back in the door. I really do, because I think probably he didn't fancy it last summer. I mean, he ended up signing for Rennes after all, so there was an element that we just wasn't quite ready for that. And now he says it's the best thing for his life. So hopefully he just loves it again and everyone loves him, and we can just move forward so positively with that.
You talk about a squad as well, and having Dice and Maida vying with Jota on the left wing is exceptional. Yeah. And James Forrest vying with Kuhn on the other side. Like these are, again, 4 of the best wingers we've seen at the club over the past 20 years, and they're all on our books at the moment. So it's very exciting. Martin on a similar note saying, can you imagine Tierney, Jota one side, Johnson, Kuhn on the other with a solid midfield and defence? Yes, I can imagine that, Martin. I've been doing a lot of imagining that over the last week or so. JM saying, can Jota play in the Champions League? No. Can't play against Villa. No. Can be registered for the playoff round. 3 players can be brought in, so you're talking Jota, potentially Tierney, potentially a striker. Who's going to drop out? So Kyogo will drop out, Vai possibly. Yeah,
Vai probably would head off to Como in Italy, I think is the chat, if Tierney arrives.
And Palma maybe.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I mean, that's an upgrade though, isn't it? If you end, the Kyogo situation's one thing, but if you look at Tierney coming in for Vai and Jota coming in for Palma, there's no arguments. That is one hell of an upgrade on the left-hand side.
Yeah, right. I mean, it is. There's no doubt about it. Like, if you're looking at our Celtic strengthening in a window, then I think Rodgers would be pretty happy with that. I think he would say publicly he's pretty happy with that too.
Any thoughts on Jota's unveiling and media appearances yesterday?
Just I forgot, like he's quite refreshingly honest and doesn't really
Yeah.
hold much back at all. He just kind of says what he thinks, which I think is good. I enjoy that as a supporter. I enjoy it as someone who follows the media stuff as well. Like it's good to just have someone who he obviously has some sort of filter because he went on Instagram and he's like, I'm effing home. But so he does have some sort of filter when he's speaking to the media, but it's not like it doesn't seem pre-rehearsed. He answers each question on its own merit. He actually answers the questions, and it was just good to see him. And he does seem delighted, absolutely delighted to be back. And he admitted himself it's been a tough little period for him in his career. And I think the way the Saudi move panned out, it was all about money, wasn't it? And it was there was no real, like Celtic couldn't really refuse the offer. Jota couldn't really refuse the wages. But I think everyone before that Saudi offer came in had Jota destined for like the Premier League or
Yeah.
La Liga, or like going up a level into like an ambitious European club, and that's just not how his career path has turned out. Celtic now are establishing themselves more in Europe, so maybe he's seeing Celtic as a team that can take him on up again, and I think he really sees this as an opportunity to rebuild his career, and I think he'll be motivated to do that because, as he said, and again he said this a lot over the years, but he reminded me that he says this a lot in his return press conferences. He loves football. He just loves football. He loves the game. He loves that connection between the supporters and what's happening on the pitch. And I think he'll really relish that and really he'll remember why he loved it so much here quite quickly. And hopefully it just results in that excellent form that we know he can produce.
He genuinely does strike me as someone who's really driven and loves the game. And I mentioned this yesterday, but I've seen some stuff about, will he have that motivation second time round now he's gone and earned his money? 100%. Like Jota was a guy that dug in and loved playing for Celtic, but didn't just love the Champions League games.
No.
From my memory, Jota loved the away games at Ross County and St Mirren and Dundee, and that's where a lot of his best moments came.
There was like a 2 month period where people were questioning his form. I think you remember a couple of years ago, and I was all through that period. I was like, but just watch him play. He's not hiding in these games. He's putting in so much effort on the other side of the ball too. He always worked through those moments as well. Like he does love playing football. He loved playing for Celtic, and when you have like a known quantity, I know these comebacks are sometimes strange, but I don't think this is really like some normal comeback, and like it might not be as good the second time around. I think Jota's really motivated, and that motivation is going to be strong for Celtic. Yeah.
What examples has there been of players going away and coming back? The only one in my mind is Charlie Mulgrew, but there must have been other players. I'm trying to think. Fraser Forster, I guess he did pretty well when he came back.
I mean, slightly before our time, I think famously Charlie Nicholas was one who kind of went away to the big time, came back, and it obviously wasn't as magic as his first spell. I mean, it's a general trend throughout sport, isn't it? Like you can't really recapture the magic of a moment, but I think Jota is well primed to, and I think that magic can return, and I think everyone will be singing his name again. I think.
Can't wait for that, and I think it'll happen tomorrow night. Chilpole saying I think he'll take a minimum of 6 weeks. Looks a bit thinner to me. A few people commenting that. Must admit I didn't spot that yesterday, but I wasn't exactly looking for that.
He said I think the phrase he used was physically it's not his best moment, which is an interesting phrase. But he said it wouldn't take long. That you just need training and need minutes in the team. I don't think Rodgers is going to hesitate too much, just giving him the minutes that he needs because he knows what his potential is. And Maeda's played a lot of football this season, so any rotation there would be helpful. And obviously Maeda might be moving into the middle a bit more, maybe if if a new striker comes in, they might take a wee bit of time to find their feet as well. So there's going to be plenty of space for him to get the minutes that he needs.
Yeah, and Jerry just bringing up, and I'd forgotten this yesterday until our pal Asim, who was at the press conference, brought it up, but Bernardo and Jota will be aware of each other, and Jota said he was as well. I must say I actually kind of hadn't realised that the two Portuguese former Benfica youngsters are together, so it's kind of funny combinations all over the place, but exciting stuff. Right, how are we feeling about Villa Park then, and how big a game is it?
Yeah, I think it's a big game in the sense of it's another test for Celtic at this level. And if we're thinking about the knockout rounds, Aston Villa are a calibre of team that we could expect to face in those knockout rounds. So we want to see Celtic go there and be hard to beat. But then we might be beaten. But you don't want to trounce in. You want Celtic to show that resolve and show that maturity that they've talked about over the last week. So I think it's a big game from that sense, and seeing where Celtic are at against a pretty very good team this season.
Yeah.
You know, with a manager who really knows how to play to a team's strengths in Europe, especially. So I think it's a big game. It's obviously a big game for all the supporters travelling down. But like I said last week after the Young Boys game, it's also a game without too much pressure on it. Celtic can go there and really show themselves, and that's what makes it exciting for me, because you know, the nature of football is you're always a little bit stressed out about how it's going to pan out, but there's no stress about the match tomorrow at all. We just want to see a good match between two good European teams in a really good fiery atmosphere under the lights at Villa Park. Two big sets of support. I mean, this is, again, it's what football's all about, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm intrigued to hear if anyone in the comments thinks Celtic can go and win at Villa Park, because I'm not sensing too much positivity generally about our chances. I guess part of that is, I think, missing Daizen Maeda and Kyogo, obviously, at that level. And obviously Jota can't play is a bit of an issue. But Villa are missing players as well. I think Ezri Konsa is their only fit centre-back at the moment. Luca Dean, the really good left-back, but a left-back, was playing at centre-back at the weekend and I think was pretty poor, someone was telling me. So maybe something could happen there. Yeah, there's the pressure isn't on us. The pressure, I guess, is on Villa to an extent, although I think even if they miss out in top 8, they're still qualified for the same round as us. So it's not as if they're going out of Europe, and I think it's still a decent achievement for them. But yeah, I hope we go in and realise the pressure's off and just go and express ourselves on the game. I'm not talking about going for the game. I think we need to be compact and hard to beat, but I want us to go and kind of put our best foot forward and do this. I don't want it to be a similar performance to Ibrox, where we're passive. As much as the pressure's off to an extent, don't be passive. Go out there and you know, and as I say, put your best foot forward and see what happens.
I think if you look at the Atalanta game, if Celtic go and produce that type of performance, and if Celtic pick up a draw, I think that's very promising for this knockout round. Yeah, it's so promising, because Villa have been one of the best. I know they've kind of fallen away and now they're on the cusp of that top 8, but in the early stages they were one of the best teams in the tournament. And I just think going there and getting some sort of result would be I think it would just raise the hype levels about this knockout round to a new level. I really do, because obviously these two-legged affairs, if you can avoid being defeated away from home, then you've always got a chance at Celtic Park. We know that. So, I mean, it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to seeing what the team can do.
I guess and I've got a comment in there mentioning it, Jerry saying not wanting another Dortmund game. No. Much as that seems a long time ago, it also, I think, is still in people's minds. And to be honest, like, it is always a worry, because Villa are a good team. I mean, they finished 4th in the Premier League last season. They've got some world-class players. And my one fear for the game is that, you know, they're going in and fighting for something. It doesn't. Just wonder if, you know, the fact that we've achieved our big goal last week, if that reflects on how the team are feeling about this one. I really hope the team, you know, are up for this game, because it's, as I say, it's a big game. Like, I always think at games against English opposition, you really always want to show that we're a good side and we could compete in their league. Now, I know that that's not the most important thing here, but I always think go and show them that if Celtic were playing in the Premier League at the moment, we would be competing. I reckon we'd be, you know, near the kind of mid-table in the Premier League. Go and show that. But yeah, I'm a wee bit worried about the game as well. I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it, because it is only Maeda and Kyogo we're missing. And I think it was pointed out to me earlier. They both played against Dortmund. They both played at Ibrox. So it's not as if they're complete game changers. But yeah, go into the game, Celtic. Don't be passive. That's my one worry. If like Villa get an early goal, you know, whatever. But you're maybe feeling slightly more confident than me.
I don't think it's confidence. I recognise that there's danger there for Celtic. I undoubtedly do. It's more just I'm not too I'm not too fussed. I'm just like, if Celtic can extend an unbeaten streak in the Champions League, that's fantastic. If we get
Yeah.
beat, it's not the end of the world because Villa are a very good team. Again, the
Yeah.
only thing is you don't want a trouncing. But I mean, my fingers are crossed that the only thing I'm confident is I think that's maybe, Celtic have moved on from that. Like, I don't think we're going to get humped 7-0. Like, I feel like Celtic have moved on from that, hopefully. And we can just show again that was a bit of a freak result this season anyway. So that's I'm not too worried about that. And then anything else for me, I'm honestly just looking forward to watching a really good 90 minutes of football. That's honestly what my thoughts are going into tomorrow night.
I hope we do ourselves justice, because I mean, what an incredible boost it would be to everyone's happiness and confidence if we were to get a result there and send us into the draw, which is on Friday. John, I don't know if you've got the league table in front of you. Is there any teams in particular that you fancy?
No, I'm
fancy a
along for the ride
winnable
on that
tie?
one. There's too many permutations for me to really get my head around it. So I'm just along for the ride for that one. We'll address that more after tomorrow night.
We'll know roughly after the game, though, won't we? We'll know two teams that we could face, so we'll have a 50-50 chance. John's saying, I think we need an Atalanta approach. Stay solid, not open as they have a lot of pace. Hit them in the break. Hopefully Big Adam can give us a performance. Yeah, looking forward to it. We will still have tomorrow's video to look ahead to the game. Final thoughts?
No final thoughts. Just obviously we'll have full coverage of across the Celtic way. As I said, Tony and Ryan are away down there getting all the presser stuff from us, getting all the news that's happening on the ground. And we'll have lots of videos over that, lots of stuff on social media, lots of stuff on the website as well.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Much appreciated. It's been another busy stream today. So thank you for those of you watching live, those of you watching after the event as well. And as John says, we'll continue the build-up tomorrow. So yeah, great stuff. Thanks, everyone. Chat to you then.